Welcome, I'm Thomas Claviez from the University of Bern, and I'm interviewing Johannes Voelz, who gave a talk on the aesthetics of the populist space of appearance in the conference of the return of the aesthetic. And I would like to start with a question that refers to the beginning of your talk, where you emphasized the very binary oppositions, the polarizing tendencies of populism. And I wonder if you could give us a short explanation in what way and to what degree these very binarisms enter, so to speak, or become manifest in the aesthetics that you're analyzing.
I think that what is currently happening is that we are witnessing a type of populism that is contributing to, and in fact accelerating, a process of polarization that has really been going on for at least since the late 1960s.
Right.
And what I'm suggesting is that this polarization between the two sides of the United States, if we wish, has found a form in the rally. Mm-hmm. We can see this early on in the late 1960s with George Wallace, a key figure of right-wing populism, who was a master of the rally. And we see it now for the last roughly 3 years in the continuous rallies held by Donald Trump. And I think what is happening, to come to your question, what is happening in these rallies is that in these rallies a representative and the represented, that is the people, come together and try to stage moments of union in which representative and represented come together. And when they come together and create these moments of unison, they do so in reference to an outgroup. And that outgroup is on the one hand often the political opponents, the Democrats. It is on the other hand racial minorities. But it is also in general the other America. So that what we have in these rallies is at once a claim to universality, as Laclau would put it, in the sense that the unity of the rally understands itself as the people, but at the same time it is also a reference to a particular group, which basically says we are only one side of the United States or of the American people. We are the ones who are unjustly pushed to the margins and we need to retake America. Mm-hmm. So I think that this is basically the binarism, as you call it, that we see in the rally.
Mm-hmm. And in how far would you say is that binarism aesthetically reflected or worked through, represented, or maybe even denied, because you might want to actually hide this very discrepancy in the rally?
Yeah, I think that the rally tries to create the effect of unity, mm-hmm. but the paradoxical thing is that it does so through processes of back and forth. In other words, there is a constant role reversal between the leader, in the case of Trump, that is of course initially the candidate, now the president, mm-hmm. who at one point is the sort of the lead, the central figure of the rally. And then comes the role reversal, to use that term of Rieke Jordan, mm-hmm. and all of a sudden the people take over. That is the constituency at the rally that is defining itself as the people. And I think that is an interesting aesthetic dynamic, because what happens there is that in order to create unity, you actually create interaction. Mm-hmm. So this idea of unity through interaction is what I was really trying to analyze. In your own work, in your own work on populism, you make the interesting case that actually, whenever we analyze populist structures, this tends to be done by sort of outside experts, so that talking about populism is sort of by definition an elitist project, you could say.
Right.
So I wonder if you would say in response to my talk, whether you would say the same thing is true in this case as well. Whether, in other words, there is no way for us to describe current populism without reinscribing the elitist position, without becoming the elitist.
I think that's a very good and very important question. I'm not quite sure whether I can answer it. I think there is always the problem of us kind of taking the backstage and watching those people either being manipulated, allegedly, sometimes against their own will or understanding of what's happening. And that, on the other, the fact that we then tend to denote them as either right-wing or even Nazi fascism-like style, is that we try to basically say, okay, since they are not only misled but actually also morally on the wrong track, being fascist, we don't even have to take them serious. And I think that is a problem of the elites that try to disentangle themselves, so to speak, from the demos or the people in this way. And I think that this implies a very dangerous dynamics, because we kind of gain this patronizing status, so to speak, toward them. And I think there's a perpetual danger, and that is I think also reflected when we talk about, on the one hand, the aesthetics of populism, but we also talk about the aesthetization of the political. And I think one implies this kind of distance analysis of certain aspects of the aesthetic. But on the other hand, aesthetization is always a strategy to use aesthetics for certain purposes, which goes straight against our conception of aesthetics as disinterested in the cultural tradition.
So I think where I would agree with you is that there is indeed the problem of not taking seriously the constituency of populist leaders, to basically treat them as the plebs, the masses, with all of the prejudices that come to us through really hundreds of years, but particularly in the 19th century, that was a strong discourse in democratic societies to figure the mass as sort of the rabble. But what I'm driving at is actually something slightly different. And when you talk about aestheticization, that is a great keyword to get to that point. I think that what interests me is not to say, look, there's these Trump rallies, we have to somehow talk about these people who go to these rallies, they must be somehow stupid and we have to explain what their problem is. No, this is not actually what I'm saying. I think that the Trump rally is basically the epitome of what politics and the political sphere has come to be. That is, in other ways, we're all populists, increasingly. And this is because in a polarized society, political discourse lends itself particularly well to populist structures of argument and to populist aesthetics. And so I would say, yes, we have to analyze the aesthetics from a sort of disinterested position, and yes, that basically creates the problem that we are the elitist outsider. But from the perspective of aestheticization, we are all part of that problem. We're not outside the polarization that is going on. And even though I don't go to any rally of any political party, and I personally don't think I would like it, I am still, as are you, and everybody at this conference that we are talking at, everybody is basically under the spell of populist leaders, and as Americanists, particularly under the current president, who is, in my mind, definitely a populist.
That I would certainly agree. The question being, should or can we get out of this spell? And how? to do so?
Mm-hmm. That is the million-dollar question. And I wish I had the answer right now. I don't see any way out of it. And one of the reasons is that the way polarization has come to work in the United States is on multiple levels. It has become so entrenched ideologically that it's difficult to break out of it. You can't just say, let's all get along, because you won't even be listened to. And in part, this has to do with the contemporary media structure that is itself driven by entertainment formats. It's no coincidence that Donald Trump succeeded both in reality television and even as somebody involved in wrestling. Those are all formats that thrive on polarization. Not ideological polarization, simply structural polarization. You need two parties who go at each other's throats. And because this is part of the world in which we live, this constantly exacerbates the problem. It also makes it even more entrenched. So I don't think there's such an easy solution to say, here, now we can go and break out of populist polarization. Are you more optimistic?
I have to say no, I'm not really. But I'm at least glad that we managed to stay away from each other's thoughts in this discussion.
Thank you for that.
Thank you.